Welcome back to Outside View Scandals, where we uncover the dirtiest secrets and failed ambitions of history's most infamous characters. And today we're diving into one of ancient Rome's juiciest scandals, the Catiline conspiracy. Think of it as a failed coup with a dash of betrayal, a sprinkle of irony, and a hefty dose of Roman drama. And all of this chaos was led by none other than Lucius Sergius Catiline, a man with a passion for power and an appetite for destruction. But now, who was Catiline, and why did he think he could take the entire Roman Republic? Let's start with the basics. Catiline was born into a noble family, but not the wealthiest. He wasn't a member of the top tier of Roman society, the ones who controlled everything. But he had ambition. And of course, in Rome, that was both a blessing and a curse. You see, Rome at this time wasn't exactly in its prime. The Republic was crumbling under the weight of corruption, inequality, and political infighting. Sound familiar? It was a playground for the ambitious people like Catiline, who thought they could climb the ranks by any means necessary. And when I say any means, I really mean any. Catiline had tried playing by the rules. He ran for the highest office in Rome, the consulship, but was beaten twice. That's gotta hurt. And imagine losing the ancient Roman version of the presidential election twice and deciding, well, if I can't win it fair and square, I'll just burn the whole system down. Very logical. And that's exactly what he tried to do. In 63 BCE, Catiline started gathering a crew of disillusioned aristocrats, debt-ridden nobles, and even a few desperate military veterans. And his pitch? He promised to wipe out debts and redistribute land. And basically, he was trying to win over the Roman version of the 99%. But here's the twist. This wasn't some noble Robin Hood moment. Catiline wasn't planning to save the Republic. He was planning to overthrow it. And in the process, install himself as, well, something. Dictator, king. He wasn't exactly transparent about the details, but we can safely assume that he saw himself as the guy in charge. So, how exactly was he going to do this? His plan was bold, and maybe a little too bold. He was going to assassinate key senators, including Cicero, the current consul at the time, and then march on Rome with his supporters. Easy, right? But let's pause for a second to talk about Cicero. Cicero, for those of you who don't know, was a master orator and a bit of a political genius, or at least he thought he was. He had his finger on the pulse of the Republic and wasn't about to let some disgruntled aristocrat with a grudge overthrow everything. And here's where the conspiracy starts falling apart. Cicero, thanks to his informants and spies, found out about the plot before Catiline could make his move. This is where we cue the dramatic moment. Cicero storms into the Senate, stands up, and delivers one of his most famous speeches, the first Catilinarian oration. With all the theatrics you'd expect, Cicero points at Catiline and accuses him of plotting to destroy Rome. You can almost hear the gasps echoing through the Senate chambers. O tempora, o mores, Cicero exclaims. Basically is that what times we live in, what morals we have. And the irony is almost too rich. Cicero was no stranger to political scheming himself, and he's now the defender of the Republic, pointing fingers at the schemers sitting across from him. Catiline, of course, denies everything, but let's be real, it wasn't a great look for him. Even though he tried to play it cool in the Senate, the whispers were getting louder and louder, and the writing was on the wall. So what does Catiline do next? Well, he decided it's time for Plan B. And by Plan B, I mean he fled the city to join his armed supporters in northern Italy, hoping to launch a full-scale revolt. Yeah, because fleeing Rome and openly declaring rebellion totally screams innocent. But here's where it gets worse for our dear Catiline. His conspiracy wasn't exactly airtight. Back in Rome, his co-conspirators were still trying to get things in motion, but they weren't the sharpest tools in the shed. They sent letters to potential allies, but guess who intercepted them? Cicero's spies, again. You'd think Catiline's gang would have learned to be a bit more discreet by now. But no. And Cicero used those letters as proof that Catiline was planning to overthrow the Republic. And in the Senate, this was the final nail in the coffin. The Senate declared Catiline and his followers enemies of the state. Ouch. Meanwhile, Catiline was out in the countryside gathering his ragtag army. But let's just say it wasn't going well. Support wasn't pouring in as he'd hoped, and his forces were more desperate men than fearsome legion. Eventually, the Roman army caught up with him at the Battle of Pistoria in 62 BCE. And in a tragic but predictable twist, Catiline died on the battlefield, sword in hand. Now, you'd think that would be the end of the story, right? Rebellion quashed, Catiline dead, the Republic saved. Well, not exactly. The Catiline conspiracy left a lasting mark on Roman politics. Cicero, for all his triumph, was both hailed as a hero and criticized for overstepping his authority, especially after he had 5 of Catiline's co-conspirators executed without a trial. Because nothing says defending the Republic like bending the rules of the Republic, right? Catiline, on the other hand, became a sort of tragic anti-hero in later years. Some saw him as a villain, a man consumed by greed and ambition. Others, though, viewed him as a symbol of resistance against an increasingly corrupt and out-of-touch elite. In a way, Catiline was both. He was a man who recognized the cracks in the Roman system, but instead of trying to fix it, he chose to exploit it for his own gain. And that, ultimately, was his downfall. The irony of the Catiline conspiracy is that it didn't destroy the Roman Republic. It actually gave it a temporary boost. Cicero's handling of the situation, for all its controversy, restored a sense of stability. But the underlying problems? The inequality, the corruption, the political tensions, those didn't go away. And just a few decades later, the Republic would face another man with even greater ambition, Julius Caesar. And we all know how that turned out. So, in the end, Catiline's conspiracy was a failure, but it was also a warning that the cracks in the Roman Republic were only getting bigger, and sooner or later, they would split the whole system apart. So, thanks for watching Outside View Scandals, and if you enjoyed this dive into Rome's most infamous failed coup, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. We've got plenty more scandals to unravel, from ancient Rome to the modern world. So see you next time, and the next video is right here in the end screen.